tippy toes, you know that. Okay. Because Fred's so tall. And I really wanted to thank you, Fred, for saying that, because ever since you invited me in February, well, that's Sue Gaffney had something to do with that, but I was like, wow, I'm a little scared. This is Alcoholics Anonymous. You people don't like us. I think that you think that we're sitting in that room over there talking about you. Because you always think everything's about you. True. Anyway, I wanted to thank again Suchi, Fred, and most of all of you of Alcoholics Anonymous. It is such an honor, a very big honor to be standing up here and speaking like this. So I have a pretty long story because I have been in Al-Anon. I was going to say Alcoholics Anonymous. I have been in Al-Anon for 24 years. Yeah, it's a pretty amazing to me. And I think that you might understand why I keep coming back to Al-Anon, because I am one crazy bitch. I really am. So with this 30 minutes, and Sue, I'm going to keep watching you because, it's been 24 years, so there's a lot to tell. I'm going to share with you my experience, strength, and hope, and I have little cue cards, so I stay on follow a roadmap here. And I'm going to start back when I was a little girl and when I was happy, joyous, and free at age 7. And I do remember this day like it was just yesterday. And I was hopping around our living room, and suddenly I jumped up on my uncle's lap, and my innocence was stolen. Okay? He did things to me that I cannot describe in this room. And I knew in my soul that it was wrong what he did, and he made me do things to him, which I cannot describe in this room. So you can only imagine, and if this has happened to you, God bless you, because I know that you carry that pain with you as much as I do every day. Al-Anon has helped me through that pain, and for that I'm grateful. So, with that being said, I would like to say that my story started at age 7. And not only was my uncle my first molestator, my dad was a drunk. My dad worked 2 jobs, a very good worker, put a roof over our head, made plenty of money. He worked at the Chrysler plant in Newark, Delaware, and he was the chief of police of the little town that we lived in. And my dad was a drunk. And that coffee table that we had in our living room, like all of you, was usually a rhinoceros. So you can get a visual of that. I like that analogy. That coffee table was usually a rhinoceros rearing its ugly head of alcoholism. And alcoholism just didn't affect my dad. It affected my mom, and it affected me, and it affected my 2 sisters. Now, I'm not going to say my mom's story, and I'm not going to say my 2 sisters' story. I'm going to tell you what happened to me. That's their stuff, and that's their story. Alcoholism ruled our house. The shame, the fear. I can remember very vividly, my mom being passed out and Dad sitting on that avocado green chair of the 70s laughing at her with a peeled beer. Every time I hear a crack of a beer can or even a soda can today, I get those chills because that affected me so much. And the smell of alcohol on one's breath, don't even go there. You're not even allowed to kiss me, because I still can't stand that smell today because that's how my dad was. I felt my dad didn't love me very much. I wanted my dad to touch me the way that my uncle did, just so I could feel his love. Thankfully, that never happened. I found out that alcoholism doesn't want anyone to be happy in a home. And it certainly reared its ugly head in our house. I found my mother in closets, afraid. I found my mother in bed most of the time. And not much love came from my dad, maybe a couple times I can remember as a child. And then suddenly something happened. We were all in the house and my mom scurried us into the car, and I was about 11 or 12 years old. And my dad was an avid hunter and a police officer, so there were many guns in our home. And I guess my mom probably saw the barrel of a gun. And she put us in a car and she took us to safety. And when we came back home that next day, when the coffee table was a coffee table again, there were bullet holes all throughout the house. And she had come to the end. And she said enough was enough, and we moved to the next town. We moved to the next town, and we began having mommy and daddy weekends. Then my second molester shows up, and he is another family member. And at this time, I was taking turns. I took advantage of my parents. If you weren't nice to me, I'm moving to daddy's. If you're not nice to me, I'm moving back to mom's. And I was living with my dad at that time. And my dad was a bar drinker. And my dad was out in the bar when his cousin came over. It was his cousin, so I guess it was my second cousin. And I was sitting there at the table one night, and I was being the cute little hostess, I guess. And I was only 12 or 13, and I said, "You want a beer?" And he said, "Yeah." And I sat down, was trying to be adult-like, mature, and he said, "How about I come over there on that side of the table?" And I knew, uh-oh, I have a feeling something's gonna happen here like it did when I was 7. And I ran upstairs, and I locked myself in my dad's bedroom because it had the lock on it. And just a couple minutes later, he comes up the steps. I hear him go to the bathroom, and then I hear him go into my bedroom, and he couldn't find me. He pushes on my dad's door, and he said, "Let me in, chicken shit." He did this 10 times. And I went into the closet and I picked up one of my dad's guns. And I was gonna kill him. I was gonna kill him. I really was. This disease of alcoholism is bad stuff. It has affected me terribly. I saw the lights come on. My dad was home from the bar, and that rhinoceros turned back into a coffee table again. And it was like everything was okay. I journaled about it. That was my diary back then, my first experience of journaling. But I never told anybody because I honestly thought it was my fault. I honestly thought if I wasn't cute, if I didn't have those particular clothes on, I must have did something for that man to do that to me and to want to be like that. So I moved back to Mom's. Mom gets a boyfriend. She's in love with this guy. Mom's boyfriend wanted me. And I came home from school one day, and this third molester, he took advantage of me. And I got really scared, and I thought, I'm not gonna let this happen anymore. And I asked my mom if I could sleep with her that night because there was something I wanted to talk to her about. And I did. And my mom got mad at me. And I didn't really understand why I was the one that was getting in trouble. So she called him on the phone, and she said, "Come over, you need to make an apology to Missy." They called me Missy. So he came over, he admitted what he had done to me, and said he was sorry. And Mom looked at me and said, "There you go, now forgive him." And that coffee table came about. The rhinoceros went away, and the coffee table turned back into a coffee table. And I thought I had done something wrong again. The shame I felt, I didn't understand, but I knew one thing for sure was my mom loved him more than she loved me. I knew that for a fact. So I said, no, I'm not gonna do this anymore. And I started seeing a young man, his name was Joey, and I fell in love with this. This is my high school sweetheart. And he was wonderful, but he was a young alcoholic and a drug addict. And he used to write love letters to me all the time. And he used to sign them, Joe, the biggest drug dealer, blah, 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 blah. Stupid. Stupid me would hide all those love letters underneath my bed, my mattress. And Mommy found them. So what do you think? Mommy's pissed. I don't know if I was in love with Joe or what, but I know that I felt that he loved me at that young age, and I was only 15 or 16, and I don't know how I went to high school those years, because I went out that kitchen window to his house every single night for him to love me, because I just wanted to feel loved, and he did. And then he had a really good friend, and his name was Jeff. And Jeff told me, no, Missy, Joe just doesn't love you. He loves all kinds of girls. And he's doing this and he's doing that. And I'm like, are you kidding me? No. And Jeff said, you should be with me. So I got with Jeff. Jeff's my ex-husband. I married Jeff when I got pregnant. That's my now 31-year-old daughter, Holly. I went home and I told my mom that I'm pregnant and I'm going to start my own family. And she smacked me across the face and said, no daughter of mine is going to get married when you're 16. You have to wait till you're 17. So 2 days after my 17th birthday, I got married. And let me tell you something. That coffee table that Jeff and I had in our house, rhinoceros from day one. And it was bad. And I remember being 7 months pregnant when this all started. I was 17, 2 days, 17, and he was 19. And we're getting ready to go to bed one night, and he says to me, I'm gonna go out with the boys. It's time to go to bed. What do you mean you're gonna go out? He said, I just wanna party a little bit more. And I'm like, we don't do that anymore. We're gonna become parents. That time is over. And he's like, well, you can come if you want. No, not really, stay home with me. He was gone, came back the next day. That was how my 9 years with Jeff was. Constantly, I didn't see him for days. He came home with no car. How can you lose a car? He would get paid on Friday and came home on Sunday with no paycheck. How can we pay the rent? How can we get another car? Oh yeah, those parents that I really liked of his, they're the biggest enablers ever. And when Jeff didn't come home with a paycheck, they paid the rent. And when Jeff didn't come home with a car, they bought us another car. I was grateful. I thought these people were so nice. Yeah, they're still being held hostage with that guy today. And he's 50-something years old. God bless her. She has been held hostage all these years, my dear mother-in-law, who just turned 80. So, she doesn't like me very much. I've often told her about Al-Anon, but she just says no. She loves her son. So anyways, then going through the years, I had a little girl and I had a little boy, and suddenly my dad decides to get sober. How am I doing on time, okay? Doing okay. My dad decides to get sober, but I don't really care because I've got enough problems in my own home now, and I don't really care. You should have fixed that a while ago. Leave me alone. I'm trying everything to get this son of a bitch sober. I mean everything. I beg, I scream. We didn't have the cell phones then, so I'd be calling down the local bar all the time, and I know they were lying to me. I know it. I know he was there. Oh, you're not going to believe this. The time that I found out that he was cheating on me of many times, I went to that girl's house, and he worked at Pepperidge Farm. Now, his shoes were laying right there when I went to her house. And I said, have you seen my husband? And she said, no. I saw him at the bar last night, but I didn't know until, is that his uniform? Can I come in here? And I walked right in there, and I found him caught up in a ball, naked as a jaybird, in her closet. So I don't know. But I love you, I don't love her. I love you too. Come back home, we'll make this work, okay? That's how insane my world was. And that rhinoceros continued to rear its ugly head. So my dad's sober, and all of a sudden one day he shows up at my house and says, daughter, get in the car. Get in the car? Okay, you're sober now, where are we going? Driving along, just listen and learn. I'm like, what the hell is going on? He said, we're going to a treatment facility. I think we need to take Jeff. He's the one with the problem, not me. Just be quiet, daughter, listen and learn. And he took me to a treatment facility called Bowling Green. Anybody know of it? Yeah. And I still couldn't understand why I was going to Bowling Green treatment facility, but they were waiting on me. And a lady came out and she said, come with me. And I said, okay. And she put me in a little room and she said, we want you to watch this. And she put in a VHS tape of Al-Anon family groups and made me watch that TV. Okay, I liked it. It seemed a little familiar, but I'm not the one with the problem. He is. Okay? So they must have saw that I was done with the movie, and I got back in the car. Nothing was said. Dad just dropped me back off. And that was when the seed of Al-Anon was planted in me. Oh my God, I thought that was just my dad that walked in. I was gonna die. So I get back home and that rhinoceros is going crazy. I mean, he is just, he started doing drugs then and crack cocaine came into the scene. What's crack cocaine? I have no idea what crack cocaine is. I just know what alcoholism is. But his friend said it's getting really bad. You know, that's probably where the cars are going to the drug addicts. And that's why he doesn't come home with a car. And that's, you know, it just, things really started getting really bad. So, I mean, I had a boy. I feel like I manipulated my pregnancy to have a son just so he would stop drinking. I did everything. And the day came, I locked him out of the house so many times because why did I have to leave? It wasn't my problem. I hammered those windows down. You weren't coming in. My fingers were broke from hitting him. He hit me. I threw the rocking horse at that son of a bitch one night because he came in too late. Like always, or never came home. I was just so mad. I was completely insane. I was completely insane. Nothing worked for getting my husband sober. And it was just an ordinary day. I like to call it a spiritual awakening, where I came downstairs at 6 o'clock in the morning and made my coffee and heard somebody is knocking on my cellar door. Probably him. He came in through the basement window. God, how did he fit in that little tiny window? He always was able to get back in the house. And I opened that door, and there he was, and I said, I didn't really say anything, just like something went through my body from the top of my head out to my toes, and that's why I like to call it my first spiritual experience, and I knew I was done. And I said, I'm done, and I just went over and made the coffee, and for some reason, I like to call that my higher power working for me, things started happening in my life that was unbelievable. I don't know how I got the lawyer, but I did. And then I got a divorce. And then I got an apartment for me and the kids. And I got a job. And I got a new car. All these things, I like to describe it as when everything is going the way that it's supposed to, things just start flowing naturally. It's like a blossom, okay, of a flower that grows, and then the petals come out, and everything. If I, in my life today, force something to happen, trying to force a solution, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. Not unless it feels just right, then I know That's the God of my understanding working in my life. I left. I'm having a good life. I started going to Al-Anon. Yep. Started going to Al-Anon. That little seed my dad had planted, I pulled it out. And I started going. I didn't like it because these ladies were sitting in there. And that was the time where you could smoke in the church basement. And they were smoking. I like that because I'm a smoker. But I really didn't like that I had to go there. Like, I wanted them to tell me what to do because I've tried everything. And then they had these blue books, very much smaller than the big book of you guys, but we call them ODAT, and it's one day at a time, and it's our first daily reader. That was my second spiritual awakening, when they started reading out of the ODAT. And I was like, wow, these people are telling my story. I think I need to be here. So I kept coming. They kept saying, keep coming back. And I said, are you kidding me? Okay. Gotta get a sponsor. Got a sponsor. That lady that smoked, the first lady I saw, she was my sponsor. Bev. She's still a huge part of my life today. Our kids grew up in the rooms. I'm having these two kids. They're 8 and 6. I'm dragging them to Al-Anon with me, babysitting when I can. We all take turns babysitting. My kids grew up in the rooms of Al-Anon. Okay? All of a sudden, Joey, drug dealer Joey, from way back when, must have joined Alcoholics Anonymous. He calls me and says he wants to make amends for what he did to me. Are you kidding me? Did you? I really loved you. I didn't love Jeff. Want to get together? This is how sick I still am. Yeah, he says. So, on the weekends when the kids were with daddy/grandmom, I was flying to Florida. And we didn't go to any AA meetings. We just basked in the sun and had fun. I had a lot of fun. In the meantime, while I'm at my job, there's another particular guy at my work who just absolutely adores me. His name is John Bear. And he says to me, I know you went to Florida this week. I can tell the way you're walking. He said, I've got a problem. He said, I need you to help me. He said, I'm in love with you. And you have something that I want. And I said, what? And he said, I don't know. What's that thing you go to? Is it Al-Anon or something like that? And I said, yeah. He said, I got a drinking and drug problem. I need help. Well, I don't think Al-Anon's going to help you, but I can help you, lead you to the right people that could. And I did. And John was sober all 9 years we were together, and we were engaged. I had to make a choice. See, in Al-Anon, I learned I could make choices. That was a big revelation for me because I never knew I could make choices. And I chose to keep that boy in Florida, and I chose John. And John and I had wonderful 9 years together, and he was sober, and he was just the best thing that ever happened to me. That man loved me like none other. He really didn't care for Alcoholics Anonymous. He tried it. You know how sometimes they're for people, sometimes it's not? He was one of those that was not. But he supported me in Al-Anon. And because alcoholism was so strong, since I was a little girl, when I took it from my home with my parents to my mom's house and took that ism to my marriage with Jeff, I also took that ism with John. And there was a lot of times I'm just like, hit me, in a fight. I want you to hit me. I pretended I fell down. He's like, you're sick. I said, I know. I know. This is why I keep going to Al-Anon. You need to go to Al-Anon, Melissa. Get yourself going to meetings again. And I did. And I was back on that Al-Anon high again, trying to get better. So, I mean, come on, I'm 49 now, and I started going to Al-Anon when I was 26. It's been a roller coaster, and sometimes I said, this ain't working, I'm quitting Al-Anon. It's not working for me, and it was. And I just continued to stay. And one morning, well, actually, we had a lot of deaths in our family, and we're planning our wedding, and his mom gets sick, and his mom dies tragically, and that was really bad. We had to put our wedding on the back burner. The second year comes around, and John's nephew died of a Oxycontin overdose. Are you kidding me? 2 severe deaths in our family. It was profound. Our wedding was really on the back burner. And then the 3rd year came around. John kissed me goodbye for work and never came home. He died in an accident going to work that day. What? What? Didn't I already go through the worst of my life with that first alcoholic? And you're telling me the love of my, why didn't the first one die? Why did this one that's so good to me have to die? But he did. That was 12 years ago. This year will be the 12th year that he's dead. You know, I always crave that spirituality piece in the program. Boy, did my eyes open wide when John died tragically. I wanted to know where he was, if his spirit was still around. Let me tell you, this is John and I's favorite place when the kids were on the weekend. John and I were in cavemen. This man has been working in my life from beyond like you would not believe it. I know he's standing right here. With the rooms of Al-Anon, I used the 12 steps in all aspects of my life. You know that kid I had, that little boy? He started using drugs right after John died. I got a phone call. Maybe a year after John died, I'm still in a fog. My 4 minutes? Okay, gotta wrap it up here. My daughter called me. She had just newly gotten married. She said, Mom, come down here. I gotta tell you something. I'm down there. I'm like, what? She's like, Zach's arrested. He's been arrested for dealing heroin. What? Are you freaking kidding me? Thank God I still go to Al-Anon. But it was hard. If I thought my first husband and my second husband was hard, you have a kid with this disease? Are you freaking kidding me? I can't just detach from my kid like I could my husband's. It's so much harder. And we had a really tough time with Zach. I did. And his dad still drinks and drugs today, so he really wasn't of any help. But I tried everything and anything just because I thought it would work. And I had had enough with Zach when he got nearly burned my apartment down. I came home from work, and he just had his daughter. She was 2 years old. And my kitchen was on fire. It was out, but all the soot and black and crap was all there. And I said the Serenity Prayer, and I went to bed that night. And I lay in my bed and thought, I gotta kick him out. I gotta kick him out. So that next morning I got up, and I said to Zach, you can't live here anymore. You can't live here anymore. You're using again. He'd call at my house. You did it. I didn't do it. I was like, what? It just didn't make any sense to me. And sometimes I believed him. A mother's denial is so deep. When he was nodding out, I didn't believe he was nodding out. When I found the Suboxone strip in the bathroom, I thought I had caught it on at work or something. You know, I work at a rehab. I thought I brought it home. Such denial. Yeah, such denial, deep denial. Anyway, he looked at his 2-year-old daughter and he said, come on, Maddie. Granny doesn't love us anymore. We have to go. That broke my heart. And all I could say was, I hope to God Maddie's going to be okay. And they got in a car and they drove away. Now, Maddie's now 6. Holly's now 31 with a 3-year-old. Zach is now 29 with a 6-year-old. And my son resides in the Chester County Prison. Before Zach died, my mother died in front of me. That was another tragedy that I had to use my Al-Anon tools. She was sick, became very ill, and it was my night to spend the night with her at the hospital. And make a long story short, Al-Anon has helped me through every tragedy in my life. I love this program. This time last year, I got a phone call. I was sitting in an Al-Anon meeting, and something terrible happened. And I got the phone call from Zach's dad that he was in a severe accident and that I would have to go to the hospital to see if he was okay because he couldn't handle it. Somebody died at the scene and we didn't know who it was. Was it my son Or was it one of the other people that he had hit? Unfortunate, 2 people died in my son's accident. He was going 100 miles per hour and hit a car head on under the influence of something. Those 2 people died. My son is being held in jail for a double vehicle manslaughter. How can I stand up here with a smile on my face? Because if I didn't have Al-Anon, I don't think I could do this. And Susan's telling me to wrap it up. Okay, so this is where I am today. Do you know that if I didn't have Al-Anon in my life, I would probably be in the nut house? You all just heard all these years of my life. Okay, I am freaking crazy, and I'll be the first one to admit it. And Al-Anon helps me stay grounded. Al-Anon helps me to keep the focus on me. I recently just got a new boyfriend that he's driving me crazy. I just am so in love with this guy. Guess what? He's an NA. I don't know how I attract these people. And you know what? You know what? I know he is so good to me, and he is so sweet. And I don't know what's going to happen between him and I, but I got to tell you, because of what I learned here in Al-Anon, if it isn't okay with us down the road as we grow in our relationship, I know I'm going to be okay. All I have to do is look behind me, okay? I made it this far. I'll be just fine. Thanks, everybody.